right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today for the third in our series around the Migration Factory. We have a really good audience here today, so I imagine we'll have some questions along the way. We'll endeavor where it makes sense to ask them as we go. But if you would put them in the Q&A portion of the Zoom webinar, the group of us here will address them either, as I said, as we go or when we get to the Q&A session a little later. I'm Rob Ash. I'm the CEO and managing partner here at T4S Partners. We're in Denver, Colorado. I'm going to ask my other presenters here on the call to introduce themselves in just a minute. But our agenda for the day, we really wanted to make this very much for you around what we all are seeing with the Cherwell base out there in the market today and what they're doing. So we've really focused this in around that, around migration trends and what the base is doing, talk about a proven practical approach around migration. Tracy Roche-Williams from Ivanti is with us. She's going to jump in and talk about some migration options and some of the benefits of Neurons. And we're fortunate to have a couple of practitioners here with us, and Dean Pierce and Paul Tochi, share some lessons learned about what we're seeing out there as we work with customers who are migrating from CSM to Neurons for ITSM. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll do a Q&A session at the end. So I'll give each of my colleagues here a minute to introduce themselves. Paul, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. This is Paul Tochi. I'm the practice partner for Enterprise Service Management here at T4S Partners. Been working in IT for over 35 years. Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome. Tracy?
Hey, everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Tracy Roche-Williams. I'm the Enterprise Service Management Specialist here at Ivanti. I've been here going on 7 years with Ivanti. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tracy. And Dean?
Dean Pierce, Senior Principal Consultant with T4S. I've been working on the Ivanti platform for about the last 6 years. Also a certified Ivanti expert.
And quite a bit of experience in CSM as well. So we're happy to have him on our team, particularly for this topic. So for those of you that don't know us, just by way of background, we thought we'd give you just a quick snapshot of both the companies. I'll let Tracy hum a few bars on the Ivanti side, but we at T4S Partners, we're an Ivanti Platinum level partner. We work across the project lifecycle with our customers from front-end advisory work to transformation work and then managed services across 3 practice areas from the bottom up: cloud enablement, application transformation, and enterprise service management. And certainly the enterprise service management practice is very, very active for us. We've done 200 plus projects and across not only ITSM, but certainly the enterprise and asset space as well. So Tracy, I'll hand it to you for a quick.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. Ivanti is probably one of the largest companies you may have never heard of before we acquired Cherwell. We're over $1 billion in revenue, international company. In addition to enterprise service management, which is my background, what really separates Ivanti from the rest of the pack is that we're a leader in unified endpoint management and security as well. And so we have a maniacal focus on bringing those best practices together to enabling successful work from everywhere.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm sorry. As I said earlier, we really wanted to focus this around what we're seeing as we work with the existing Cherwell Service Management or CSM base from a trend perspective. As we talk to customers, these are, we get these types of questions all the time: is what's happening, what are other customers doing, what are lessons learned? And we wanted to try to make it more around that kind of a discussion. So from our perspective, we've seen a significant acceleration in activity with customers around migration. Most of the customers, and you'll see this a bit later when we talk a bit about our approach, are starting from a standpoint of trying to assess their current state and get a feel for how to proceed forward with a migration, whether it's replicating current state or adding some capability along the way. We're seeing many customers that have started their migrations. I don't know the number from the Ivanti side. I do know that it's a substantive number that they have and are working with. We at T4S have about 6 of these projects in flight, several of them ready to go live, and 30 plus in discussions at various phases with the customer that are either in assessment, doing some sizing or approval. So it looks like somebody said the right side of this is cut off. Is that what others are seeing? The right side of this cut off? No?
No, I can see it perfectly.
Okay, Mike, I'm sorry. You might need, I don't know what's going on, sorry. But if other attendees are having that problem, let me know. I'd have to resize this, but I'm not seeing anyone else. Okay, I'm seeing somebody said the right side is not cut off. Mike, I'm sorry. So as I said, we have quite a few of these in motion. By the way, we will send you all this deck after the presentation. So if you can't see something, you'll have the deck afterwards. Now, I'm sure not a surprise to anybody here, business continuity is a huge issue, right? I'm going to move from, an important enterprise system to a new enterprise system. I need to maintain one while I stand up another. And I think all of us that have worked in IT over our lives have the sensitivity of doing whatever we can to minimize disruption to our end user stakeholders. And that is a big issue. And frankly, I'll speak for T4S. I have been in a lot of these meetings. I certainly have not been in all of them. But with few exceptions, the customers we're talking to, particularly after they have a better understanding of the full breadth of the Neurons platform, are looking to expand capability after the initial core deployment. Okay. So we're going to have several poll questions as we roll through our presentation today. So this is poll question 1. I think this is kind of a balance with Adrian and I, since he's the one in control of these things. But has the end-of-life announcement from Ivanti regarding Cherwell Service Management changed your planning and timing regarding migrating? Okay, we got a lot of people responding, so that's great. Let's see, can you guys see that? Maybe you guys can see real time. Okay.
Give it about 30 more seconds, Rob, and then I'll share it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I pulled it over there if they could see it, but pretty consistent, I think, with what we've seen, if the rest of the group can see that.
All right. I'll go ahead and end the poll and share it now.
Okay, can you guys see that? All right, I got some coaching here from Mike. Presentation cutoff, use setting fit to window. Mike, I'm sorry, I'm not a PowerPoint expert. Is that a PowerPoint setting or something in Zoom?
The Zoom setting on the client side or the presenter side?
All right, I'm doing my best, Mike, but I'm not seeing that I have that option here. I'm sorry.
Might be on the client side. Rob.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, Adrian, was everybody able to see this?
Yeah, everyone should have seen it. I'll stop sharing it now.
Okay, great. So you can see there was about half are evaluating options and considering the impact, and virtually the rest are either have accelerated or it hasn't changed their planning and timing. I would say one of the things we've seen is many of the customers we've talked to, and certainly we've been aggressive on this with our customers, is that they had started a process already, and we certainly have been encouraging folks to do that. So it looks like some folks got this fixed. So thank you for your help. I'm neither a PowerPoint nor a Zoom expert, as you can certainly see. So this is an example, and really just a little bit of a visual and some words on the approach that we've taken with our customers. This is a tried and true approach around projects that I'm sure many of you have done, but really following a assess and plan where there's strategy and goal setting, identifying resources, budgeting, building a roadmap, a execute and migrate phase where we get the project launched, we deploy resources, manage to the plan, report, deal with any issues, and do stakeholder communications and management, which of course is very, very important, as I mentioned earlier, when we're changing these critical enterprise systems. And then extend and drive value. And this is one we've always encouraged our customers to do. Paul mentioned he's been doing this for 30 plus years. I don't know where the heck the time went, but I think I'm on year 36 of this. But with these enterprise systems, this is something we've always encouraged folks. They're really not destinations, they're journeys. There's always more capability and functionality that can be added. And certainly leading platforms like the Neurons platform we're talking about is going to consistently have additional functionality added to it. So what we're seeing is extension across other functional groups within the organization. Certainly HR, security, facilities. These are big ones. Extend the core ITSM functionality through iteration. Automated discovery and asset management is as hot a topic in the conversations we are having with customers as anything we're doing. Maybe safe security, which has become all of our very hot topic. And then really iterating through the deployment to drive continuous improvement in your overall solution. So on the assessment side, one of the things that we do with customers is T4S has built a migration assessment utility. What we do is this is a free service that we provide to anyone that wants to do it. We have the ability to go in and take a look, a quick snapshot at your deployment, and we'll get this relevant information back about the business objects you have deployed, any custom objects that you have, how often they're used, when they were last used, some information about integrations. And then what we can do is go with one of our consultants and put together this executive summary readout, assessment readout. This also is kind of our first step in trying to help customers with an order of magnitude as to the size of their migration project. We do a number of these. There's probably some folks on the phone that we've done this for, but running this assessment tool is our first step in the process. Then working in collaboration with you and your people and our Ivanti counterparts, the next two phases are really further codifying the current state. We have some tools that we can leverage here that allow us to do a quick snapshot through some surveys that we can do with you, or with some customers, these are more facilitated workshops where we're going to dig through the various ITIL components, assess from a red, yellow, green, high, medium, low, your level of maturity in these areas, and start to identify some high priority areas that, based on your goals and objectives as an organization, you really want to focus on and drive some improvement from an ITIL maturity perspective. This, can take anywhere from, the assessment utility, the upfront one, we can typically get that done in a week or two. If we get into more detailed workshops and whatnot, it might take us a couple of months to get through that. Part of that would be producing a statement of work for you to review, a budget, a business case if that's necessary, and then we jump into the actual execution and begin the migration to the Neurons for ITSM platform. Okay, so that's kind of what our process looks like, our sequencing. We always get asked, how long does this take? And it's a tough question to answer. We're trying to give you some notional timeframes, because I can promise you there's a few of the, as Paul could probably tell you some better stories with a smile, some of these need to move at a faster pace. And we all will do our best to adapt to that and come up alongside your timeframes. Okay. So I guess we have a second poll question here now. This is certainly a hot topic of discussion that we have with all customers, and that is, do you plan to migrate data from Cherwell to the new Neurons for ITSM solution? I could see people answering quickly. This one is kind of all over the board. I would say that we have worked with a partner to build a tool to help migrate data. But at the end of the day, that's still an effort there, and always a discussion, and really an organizational decision that needs to be made as to the value of actually migrating that data. So Adrian, what do you think? It looks like everybody's answered. So, or we got a few more, half of which,
Yeah.
It looks like half of which have said they haven't decided yet, looking for some further guidance. That sounds exactly like a call we had yesterday where the customer said exactly that. And it took 2 or 3 back and forths to actually have real clarity with them on what is it you're really trying to do here with migrating data. So once we got there, I think we were in good shape. All right. Adrian, are you sharing?
Yeah, I'm sharing the results now.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, some people plan on migrating everything. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, folks. That's great. We appreciate the audience participation here and providing some input on that. All right. So I think I'm going to hand the baton, or because I'm such a hockey fan, I'll say pass the puck to Tracy and let Tracy cover some items. Tracy?
Fabulous. So thanks, Rob. When we're talking about the acquisition of Cherwell, moving to Ivanti, what's the advantage for you as an end user and consumer of the platform? I think one of the keys, and we'll get in a little more, is the access to the broader portfolio. Ivanti is a lot more than just service and asset management. One that is really resonated is the 100% browser-based UI. No more client administration or configuration, thin client to leverage. The other is upgradable content. We are a platform-first software company. And no matter what area you start at with Ivanti, you can always enhance that over time as you're doing continuous service improvement and possibly taking advantage of other areas of the portfolio. Rob, are you advancing the slides? Awesome, thanks. An existing benefit to Cherwell users is that it's going to be very familiar, right? We've been very focused at Ivanti in taking those capabilities that you're used to using at Cherwell and ensuring that those exist in Ivanti Neurons for ITSM and ITAM. There's a list here. I'm not going to go bullet by bullet through the list, but this platform will be very familiar, and you're not going to lose capability that you might be accustomed to by making a move to Neurons for ITSM. And so I spoke a little bit about what makes Ivanti different from other providers out in the marketplace. You'll see whether it's service management, unified endpoint management, Ivanti is a leader in all of these areas and provides the most robust combined solution in service and asset and endpoint management, and additionally, security as well. So we're a little bit different, but there's a reason for that, and it's converging service, operational service management, and security in your organization. I think there's the next slide is a little bit more specific about what it's a portfolio slide. So, when we're talking about products, and again, not going to go through every bullet, but this is the extent of our product portfolio at Ivanti. We're only right now talking about this small piece on the lower right, service and asset management, but you'll see we bring a whole holistic and unified, fully integrated solution across the IT organization. Yeah, this is the slide that talks about capabilities that are more specific to enterprise service management. So your entitlements coming from Cherwell are everything in the light orange on the left-hand side. So not only do you get full ITIL-based service management, but we're adding full lifecycle-based or full ITAM-based lifecycle asset management. That capability is an extension of service management. It brings a lot of power and the ability to expand out beyond just ITSM and beyond just simple inventory and CMDB. I'm sure the team at T4S would love to show you those capabilities. If you're on CSM Enterprise, we also have the entitlement to move to the ESM, what we call line of business. That includes all of the extended capabilities that, while integrated with IT, aren't necessarily IT functions. So human resources, governance, risk compliance, project portfolio management. A big one today, and for us at Ivanti, is security operations management. The neat thing is whether you're coming from just CSM or CSME, this is available to you as you make your decisions about moving forward. The other thing about enterprise line of business is that any future capabilities that we release are also included in that licensing. So upcoming are finance module and procurement modules, and again, any that might potentially be on the roadmap in the future. The hyperautomation platform is where our experience in unified endpoint management, discovery, and automation really come into play. These enhance, I like to call it the care and feeding of the service and asset management platform. Where's your data coming from? Organizations on average have 7 unique sources of asset data. How are you today bringing those together into a holistic, normalized view from which you can take action? Quite difficult. If your answer is spreadsheets, that wouldn't be uncommon. We have a really elegant solution, again, based on our history as an endpoint and security company, to bring those capabilities together and really do a quite elegant job of CMDB and support your full lifecycle asset management.
Ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Sorry, we should have had hand signals or something arranged beforehand.
Telepathy.
And so this is
Felt it.
this is the vision that Ivanti has, right? Very powerful outcomes when you bring these disciplines together in a unified way. your organization is likely doing all of these things in some way, shape, or form. But are they stovepiped? Do you have a way that these different areas of your organization are communicating? Are you having to duplicate efforts between your endpoint management practice and your service management practice? How about security, zero trust access, risk-based vulnerability management, right? Managing the workflow of all of your infrastructure and endpoints and the security posture of those endpoints. This is our vision for the future, is bringing these things all together in a unified way. Ready? And so why migrate, right? In the end, you know, this is what we're all considering right now. Again, all of those capabilities you're accustomed to using in Cherwell exist today in Neurons for ITSM and ITM. What that means for you is a very low barrier to entry, right? You know how to work it. The learning curve to configure and administer Neurons for ITM will be very low and very small compared to another third-party platform. Second is upgrade cycles. Ivanti leverages DevOps in our software development, and we have quarterly product updates. So when there's new capabilities available, you don't have to wait a year, 18 months, 24 months to realize and take advantage of those new capabilities. Again, the future additional value, service management should always contain continuous service improvement over time, right? You don't stand this stuff up and then just let it run for 5 years in the ideal world. You're always looking for ways to improve and make the experience for your end users better over time. Be able to say yes to your business customers in your organization. There's again, a huge range of functionality that's coming available with the extended platform. A lot of efficiencies, single platform where your users can go and get service management help, make requests, project requests, HR requests, facilities requests, full role-based security, meaning that you deliver to your end users what they're entitled to see and the services that they're entitled to receive from you. Lastly, extremely favorable licensing models. And there's two aspects to this. One is a very simplified licensing system that can include just the service and asset management portion, the extended line of business capabilities, even our hyperautomation capabilities when we're talking about discovery and workspace management. All of those can be delivered in a single SKU. The second part of that as a Cherwell customer is that you are entitled to support for Cherwell while you're undergoing your migration process. So you're not going to have to pay for two platforms at the same time, right? Contact T4S, who will work with Ivanti about your specific journey. Some people might take this opportunity to go from premise to SaaS. There will be an uplift to do that. But if you're on premise or you're already in the cloud, you're entitled to Neurons for ITSM and support of your Cherwell environment for what you are spending today. And we look forward to talking with you about what those look like. But we are appreciative of the investments that you've made in Cherwell. We do not take that lightly. And we are doing everything that we can to support you in this decision to move forward.
So Tracy, before we jump to our third and final poll question, we have a question here. Is Neurons on-prem or cloud only? And I thought you would be a good one to answer that.
Yeah, it's available on-premise or in the cloud. It is true SaaS. We also have a FedRAMP authorized environment. So for public sector customers, there's even finance and healthcare organizations who like the availability of that FedRAMP environment. All three are available: premise, SaaS, and FedRAMP SaaS. It is FedRAMP moderate, IL2, impact level 2.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, we have a Q&A section of the presentation here. So if you have more questions for Tracy, put them in there and we will look to address them. So our third and last poll question: what is the biggest obstacle for your organization starting a migration initiative to Neurons for ITSM? So budget, current deployment too complex, don't understand the complexity of CSM, looking for an approach to effectively execute the migration, evaluating our options, limited resources and staffing, or lack of executive buy-in and support. Those are a lot of choices. We put some strain on the audience here with this one.
Let's give it about 10, 15 more seconds.
All right, thanks, Adrian.
You're welcome.
I think when Adrian shows you this poll, I'm getting to see it real time. This is very consistent with what we're hearing.
All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Share the results.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I mean, you know, Paul, you're on a lot of these. I don't think you would disagree with me, but those top three are absolutely the top three we're hearing. So, all right. Great. Thank you. Thank you all for your responses there. All right, Paul, I think you're going to talk a little bit about lessons learned, and I'm going to guess this will drive some questions along the way.
Great, thanks, Rob. As Rob mentioned earlier, you know, we've been working on a number of migrations for a while now, and we wanted to share some of these lessons learned. It's not a comprehensive list here, but these are some of the key points that apply to most of the migrations. So the first one is be decisive about what you move into the new Neurons for ITSM platform. So if you've been on Cherwell for a little while, it's very likely that you have some things that are not being used. Maybe you tried some things out and decided not to go down that path, or maybe you built them and a few people are using them, but maybe they're not providing the value that you thought they should. It would be far better to leave some of these things behind so you can start clean. So you should take some time to review at least your major objects in Cherwell or your processes and decide which ones might not be needed. That might be a useful exercise. Next one is plan for data archive or data migration. And so we had the poll question earlier, so we have a sense of what some of y'all are thinking about here. But essentially, you know, the data migration should be strategic, whether it's regulatory reasons, there might be some policy reasons. You might also have some large amounts of data that was entered manually, like knowledge articles, or some of our customers have warranties or contracts or other data that's very useful to them that they use all the time that would be difficult to re-enter. Those would be good reasons for moving some data over. Not everyone has data they want to keep, so old incidents and service requests are not useful for most customers, but for some they might be. Some have very few, if any, knowledge articles, which, you know, if you only had a few, you could move those over manually, cut and paste, and you could also take that time to clean those up in the process. So you might have some of the older knowledge articles that no longer apply, and you can weed those out that way. But, you know, if you do need the data, there's a few different approaches that can be used depending on what your needs are. If you only need the data for a short while, Ivanti allows you to keep the Cherwell for 6 months after you go live on Ivanti. So that provides a no-cost way of hedging your bets, at least for a little while. If you need the data longer, there are a few other options. So if you're an on-premises customer, you already have the data in a database, and you can leave it in place even after you no longer use Cherwell. So then if you're a cloud customer, you can actually archive the data by getting a copy of the Cherwell database from Ivanti and load that into your Microsoft SQL Server on premises. And then you could even consider pointing your Ivanti extraction reporting system to your Cherwell database on your premises. And that might allow you to create the reports you need a little more easily and alongside anyway your Ivanti data. These last approaches, though, do require that you have someone who writes queries against the databases or database to get what you might need out of it. If you're saving the data just in case or because you only need it once in a while, it could be a good strategy to have it in the database. If you use it more frequently or it's part of what you do every day, then you might be considering a different strategy where you load the data actually into the Ivanti Neurons platform. And as Rob mentioned earlier, we have a partner that we work with that helps make this a bit easier, but there's always effort and cost in migrating data. It's not a trivial thing, and I don't want to make it sound that way, even though we do everything we can to make it easier for you and guide you down the right path. But we have to make sure there's a landing place in the new system. And migration's not perfect. We're going to bring over all the items we can, but we might not be able to bring over everything. Different things are linked back and forth to different things throughout the system, various objects, incidents tied to change requests and service requests and other things, problem entries as well. And we might not be able to retain all of those linkages. The most common data that you need, though, for example, if you did need your incidents or service requests, we can get those over along with journal entries and tasks and attachments and so on. And so essentially the key parts of the data that you need can be brought over. You also should consider whether or not it makes sense to implement in phases. If you have any concerns about implementing in a big bang approach, so if you have a very large and complex system, then you might need to decide, is there a benefit to phases? There may not be. Maybe the way you use the system, you need to be a big bang. Or if you're a smaller organization, it makes total sense to be a big bang all at once. But if there's business units or departments that are not directly linked to IT, might make sense to move them before IT if they're smaller and they're willing to go first, or maybe the other way around. Maybe it makes sense to bring IT on first and leave the others on Cherwell briefly and then get them over. You certainly don't want to leave anything behind for very long. So if you are planning to implement in phases, they should be, in my opinion, close together so that we can get all of that data moved over, because many things do interact along the way. You need to take advantage of the native Neurons platform. This is very important. So first, let me address the word Neurons. So many products at Ivanti have Neurons in their name. Some of these are more branding, but as Tracy showed earlier, the Neurons platform provides a hyperautomation features which link many of the Ivanti products together and provides a solid foundation for more functionality. So Neurons for Discovery, as an example, is built on top of this platform, and it provides normalization and deduplication, as well as the ability to load the CMDB with the discovered devices. This allows you to mature your ITIL processes with asset management, discovery, spend intelligence, and automation. Now, Ivanti works very similarly to Cherwell, but it is different, especially in some areas. So we recommend using the native functionality of Neurons, Ivanti Neurons, rather than trying to turn Ivanti into Cherwell. So a good example is service requests is a separate object in Ivanti, whereas in Cherwell, service request and incident are the same object. In Ivanti, so it doesn't use the service catalog quite the same way as incident uses it. And for some of our customers, that's felt a little bit different and like it might take some time to get used to. But as they looked at it, they felt like, well, this is the way it's intended to be used. There's still categorization here. It makes more sense to use it the way it was intended to be used, rather than trying to implement the Cherwell 3-level service catalog. And for others, that might not be true, but we certainly can talk through those things with you and help you decide on the right direction and the best practices for your implementation. The next one is you should decide if you're looking to replace current capability or start fresh and enhance. So some clients are moving to Ivanti in the same way that they moved to Cherwell previously, which most of our customers didn't. There was no need to look at the prior system they were using. We just start out with a design workshop session, and we walk through the out of the box features of, in that case, Cherwell, but in this case, Ivanti, and get a list of what changes you need to those rather than analyzing everything in Cherwell as a starting point. The outcome could be the same, but starting fresh allows you to make the most of the out-of-the-box features in Ivanti that Cherwell might not have had. The next lesson learned is to identify what other projects might impact this initiative. This one you might not think of, but if you have other initiatives going on in your organization, maybe identity management or ERP or a whole host of other things that are going on at the same time. A couple of things to think about. One is, how much change should you be implementing at the same time? Obviously, and there are folks in your organization, maybe you yourself here on the call, would be thinking of that naturally. But also, some of these changes might actually impact some of the dependent systems. So, if you have integrations from Cherwell into some of these systems, but those are changing, that actually, matters for when you implement Ivanti and whether or not you have to implement those integrations maybe before those systems change, and then yet again tweak them or change them once they go live. So understanding your current environment for around the enterprise will help you with the timing of this. You should consider whether or not you want to take on a portion of the work for yourself with your own staff. It all does depend on your capability and the availability of these resources, but it is one way to save some of the cost and increase your knowledge transfer at the same time, so that you get your team trained and find places where they can take on some of this work. In this approach, we would do some of the work, and you would do some of the work. And when you're doing some of the work, we can provide some guidance and support if you like, and that might help those folks come up to speed a little bit quicker. One of the most common places for someone who's newly trained in Ivanti to help out would be request offerings. These are similar to specifics in Cherwell, but they're actually much more powerful because they have the workflow and the forms are all together. For some organizations, they have a very large number of specifics. I've worked with some clients who have a specific form for every request in their service catalog, believe it or not, and that's important to them. It helps reduce the back and forth, as we all know, between the agents and the customers to make sure you get all the data that you need. Other customers don't use it as much, and then it's not as important. And there may be some other places where y'all can help out in your own implementation if you need to save that cost. So the alternative, though, is that we do the full implementation for you and do a knowledge transfer at the end to show you what we did. This direction leads to a faster implementation, which might be more beneficial depending on what your goals are for your implementation. This approach also frees up your staff to continue to support Cherwell, which kind of leads to the next point. So while you're building the new solution, or while we're building the solution and you're supporting us, then somebody is still supporting the existing Cherwell solution. So you need to plan for how that'll be done, whether it's your own resources, or if you like, if you're going to put your resources as much as they can on helping with Ivanti, we actually have some offerings where we can help you maintain Cherwell while we're doing the development at the same time. Not only that, though, I mean, many admins also support other applications besides Cherwell. So for some of our customers, the admins are fairly busy with lots of other things. But the good news here is that you have options to do what makes the most sense for you. Next key point is to plan for a VPN or decide if cloud-only integration works for you. If you're going to be doing this, I would say soon. It won't be too long. For SaaS clients, I'm sure Cherwell uses the trusted agents. Ivanti is working on that. They've already created the trusted agent and they're filling it in with some of the other features. That'll be available before too long. So you'll still have an option for trusted agent for probably most of you who would be implementing maybe a little bit later or finishing your implementation a little bit later in 2024. As an option though, for cloud only, if you need to connect to anything on premises, like Active Directory or other systems for integration reasons, then you should plan on a VPN, or if the trusted agent's available for the features you need, then you can use that as well. For those, we are starting to see now here in the year 2023, almost over, of course, can you believe it? But we're starting to see more and more clients who want to try to go cloud only and not use the trusted agent or the VPN. And in those cases, then you need to have your services available over the internet. And there's a variety of ways. Many folks are using Azure AD now. And as long as you sync all your attributes over there, then we can pull that from AD. And of course, single sign-on, we can use Azure AD or other options like Okta and so on. And then email, most folks have already gone to O365, so that's already in the cloud. And then if you do want to integrate to the API, there are other ways to access on-premise systems. Maybe they're much more technical, but could be a reverse proxy, or there's some options in Azure that help you do that as well. And we can guide you through what's the best path for you for accessing on-premises or avoiding on-premises altogether, and still getting the features that you need, of course. Okay, so hopefully you found something useful in these lessons learned. We'd be happy to discuss these in more depth when you're ready. And I guess now it's time for our Q&A session, so maybe we can answer some of those now.
Yeah, so please, hopefully you all have some questions here. Tracy, you were answering a question while Paul was sharing lessons learned that I think was around how CSM licenses move over to the new platform. Maybe you could just hum a few bars for the entire audience so we catch it on the recording here.
Yeah, sure. So we do need some authorization from you as the customer to do the license transfer. What that looks like in reality is a quote that has both the Cherwell SKUs and the Ivanti SKUs. The Cherwell SKUs revert to a penny and the go forward costs are transferred to Ivanti, but you'll see that both are supported through that time frame. And again, it could be the same annual spend that you have today. There may be an increase depending on whether you're moving to cloud, adding any additional capabilities that Ivanti brings to the table in addition to Cherwell. But get with T4S, they'll work with Ivanti to get something in front of you that's executable to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. That's a really good answer. We've, as I've said, we're working with a lot of customers on migration in one stage or another. There is some discussion that needs to go on here, but I can say, certainly from both of our sides, we're committed to helping you have the best information so you can make the right decision for your organization.
And one thing I'd add, Rob, is you don't have to wait until your Cherwell renewal to do that, right? If you're eager to get started, we can start that at any time. So don't hesitate. Give yourself as much runway as you can possibly give yourself.
All right. Thanks, Tracy. That was good. And Paul, thank you. Some good lessons for everybody. So folks, we have about 9 minutes till the top of the hour. We actually budgeted 10, so I'm going to pat us on the back for hitting that marker pretty good. So we'd like to see a few more questions. There's still quite a few people out there. Maybe we got all of yours, but I'm suspecting that there are more out there. And if you have that question, likely somebody else does too. So we're ready to answer if you have some for us. I'll give you a couple minutes.
Looks like we must have been very thorough.
I don't know, I guess we'll find out when somebody talks to us afterwards if we were or not.
That's right.
All right, maybe we don't have any more. Oh, here comes one. All right, Tracy, this might look like for you. With quarterly updates, does Ivanti for ITSM guarantee continued compatibility with custom forms?
The updates will not break your configuration. So the platform was designed for true SaaS and the ability to lay these updates into your tenant. So no concern with breaking anything that you've already built or deployed.
Thank you, Ken. All right, here's another one. Adrian, this is you. Do you know how we're going to receive the gift card or voucher?
Yes, I'll be reaching out afterwards, Javion. Thank you.
All right.
This one.
All right, here's one. Akin to lessons learned, does anything stand out per customers that have or currently making an on-prem to on-prem transition? Any unique considerations that should be considered and maybe overlooked in the planning stages? I don't know, Paul or Dean, you want to tackle that one? I think we certainly have at least one of those right now we're working on.
Off the top of my head, nothing standing out that's special. Certainly Dean can pipe in if you can think of something. I mean, most of those lessons learned apply in both areas.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe from an architectural perspective. Ivanti is more load balanced friendly per se. There's not a need for Redis like Cherwell needs. So there would just be a few architectural differences if you're moving from Cherwell on-prem to Ivanti on-prem.
All right, I think we did answer live on the wrong question there. Tracy, maybe you can grab, oh, you're typing. Okay, you're going to answer that there.
You know, this is a complicated answer. So, you know, we rely on our partners at Ivanti. T4S is a premier partner that brings both Cherwell and Ivanti experience to the table. We do have a services team. I'd encourage you to work with T4S, and I guess that's all I have to say about that. We do have a services team. We tend to be pricey. Our lead times tend to be longer. We're less nimble and wily than our partners. And T4S brings the migration factory, right? That's something that they do that we don't do, right? The early evaluation to determine level of effort of what those professional services even are. I mean, they bring a lot of added value to this process.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. And we very much appreciate our partnership with Ivanti, and certainly you have been, you know, one of those premier people for us to work with. So we appreciate that. Keep the questions coming. We have 5 more minutes if you want to ask more questions. Give it a minute here, see if anybody else wants to ask one. All right, if one comes up, we'll do it while we're kind of closing out here. But on behalf of all of us, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that joined today. We had really good questions and really good participation here throughout. I want to thank you know, our collective teams here, some people you see, some people you don't. Adrian Cordova and Kurt Brock for really driving this. And then Tracy, Paul, and Dean for joining in here and talking to y'all. We look forward to some follow-up here. We'll get out to you, I believe, both the presentation, and Adrian will send you the recording to not only this one, but the prior 2 sessions we did as well. And let's have a one-on-one conversation And we'll dig deeper. Maybe before we go, here's one that came in that Adrian, you'll have to look at this one where some folks couldn't get their poll questions responses in. Tracy, do you have a number? How many hosted Cherwell customers have migrated? Do you have a number off the top of your head?
I don't. We can get that answer for you.
Okay.
I don't have a number off the top of my head.
Harold and crew, we'll get that answer and get it back to you. It is, it'll take a little work, but we will do it and give you an approximate number. I'm not sure if you were on the front of this, but we personally have a half a dozen or so of these rolling, and about 30 plus that were in different stages of moving forward. So, and that activity has been very intense, I would say, in the fourth quarter here of this year.
Yeah, and I mean, think about your own internal process. Service management, I've been doing this almost 20 years. It is not a light decision or a fast decision. So a lot of organizations have made that decision or in process, but we've only been at it now for about 18 months doing these. And every month, the number committing to move and migrate is increasing, almost doubling on itself every month. So we'll get you the number that have already happened, but just know there's a lot in process as well.
Agreed. All right, folks, again, thank you. Thank you for your pleasant comments in here too. I hope you all found the session useful today, and have a good rest of the day.